Hey there, and welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. If you're looking to get more sales, more customers, master your marketing, and ultimately take control of your retail or e-commerce business, then you're in the right place. I'm Selena Knight, a retail growth strategist and multi-award-winning store owner whose superpower is uncovering exactly what your business requires to move to the next level. I'll provide you with the strategies, the tools, and the insight you need to scale your store. All you need to do is take action. Ready to get started? Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, PR and SEO have a lot in common. Now, why? Simply because they're kind of like dark arts. We just call them esoteric. You never quite know whether you're going to get a result, whether the result came from the efforts that you put in, or whether you'll actually ever see a return on investment. So today, I have Chris Mannix from Soda Communications on to talk about whether you can do PR yourself, whether you should even bother, but most importantly, what makes a story? Because this for me is the most difficult thing. I feel like my life and my business are pretty damn boring, but oh my geez, she has just come up with some amazing things in our pre-call to talk about how you can leverage what is just happening in the world to bring PR to your business. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you so much for having me. Can I just flag, I am definitely not your stereotypical PR person. I really need to be upfront about that. I'm not glamorous. I'm pretty down to earth. I'm not going to reel off famous people that I've worked with. Everyone's going to be like, oh, should I be doing something with Beck Judd? No, not necessarily. And I kind of pride myself on that sort of positioning that I'm going to give you really sensible advice, and I'm not going to try and pull the wool over your eyes. So can I just flag that? Some people will be disappointed, but
it's not that you can't name drop, it's that you choose not to name drop, which is a very, very different scenario, because I know some of the people and the brands that you've worked with and they are next level. But what I also know is you are exactly the reason we got you to come on is you are simple, down to earth, tell it like it is. And that is the kind of person we like to have on the show.
Gorgeous. I love that. All right. Well, then we can continue.
Fantastic. All right. Let's start with we all kind of know what PR is,
yeah.
But maybe if you can give us like a little bit of a definition around what it is you do and how it can relate to retail and e-commerce business owners and whether they should even bother.
Yeah, for sure. So what is PR? Well, first of all, you need to know that PR is a really uncontrolled medium. So no agency or no consultant, regardless of how good they are, can tell you you're going to get this coverage in this spot. It'll be this size. It's going to say these things. It's a completely uncontrolled medium. Now, I could give you a technical definition, but really what we do is we help you create newsworthy platforms and we go to media to help get them up in media coverage. So anywhere where you're reading a newspaper, you're reading an online article, you're seeing something on TV, there could be an element of PR activity that goes in with that.
Right. Okay. So just kind of getting your brand out there, getting your story out there in the hopes that that's going to create some kind of momentum for people to buy from you further down the line.
Exactly. So sort of how it fits in is you really need to look at how those news and newsworthy platforms are structured. What are they looking for? And we're going to go into that a little bit later on. But you need to really fit in with them. They're not going to fit in with you unless you've got something absolutely amazing and life-changing happening, which I need to be honest could be highly unlikely.
Yeah. You can't just sit there and wait for people to turn up, can you? At the end of the day, you got to push, right? You've got to sit there and push and push and push.
Politely ask, or sometimes I've been known to put into email headings, begging for coverage. It tends to get people's attention. But I guess I'm kind of fortunate. Like I've been in the game for 25 years. And so, my name will come up and people will kind of know that I generally know what I'm talking about and that I've read their articles previously, or I've listened to their shows, or I've watched what they've got happening on TV.
All right. Well, let's jump in and get started. Okay. First of all, what makes news? Because this is my biggest thing. Like, even when I go to apply for awards, I just sit there and think, but how am I any different to every other business who's out there helping people? Like, sure, we have our story, we have our things, but realistically, how do I find that thing that the person on the other end goes, I can use that?
Yeah. So the worst thing is sometimes a client might say, oh, my competitor was in so-and-so. Why wasn't I there? I mean, first of all, you weren't working with us and you didn't ask to be there. So I can kind of sort of understand that. We think of sort of 6 key categories for what makes news. The first one is super easy. It is general news. There is an obvious spot for it. You're making an announcement. You've appointed a CEO. You've expanded into the New Zealand market. You're first to market with, a product. Really, really straightforward. When you look through the newspapers or you're reading your favorite things online or a magazine, think about what they're looking for. Amazing pictures, great spokespeople and what have you. But the first thing is kind of like actual news. So it's actually, you've got something to say. But there's 5 other things that you can use to craft news. And I think this is where I feel my job gets super exciting.
This is where your creative brain kicks in, because my logical brain just thinks you are brilliant when you come up with these things.
That's so kind of you. Look, the first thing is like events, and money can't buy experiences. Now, I'm the first person to say don't have a cocktail party for a cocktail party's sake. Do not do that. But there are some fantastic ways that you can use an event to create a platform to create news. So, for example, media love to go behind the scenes. How are things made? I've worked for a long time in lifestyle motoring, and the one thing media love is they love going behind the scenes into the pits, for example. Now, you might not have racing cars in the pits. Totally get that. But, there's some great secrets to sort of, the craft that you do or how you curate what you have in your store or any of those kinds of things. So to get media together to, feel like they're making something that you're doing starts to create that platform for you. So in those kinds of instances, events can actually lead to media coverage. If you're doing an event for an event's sake, you're inviting 50 people, say, you're only going to reach 50 people. But if you're doing an event as a platform to create coverage, you can reach thousands upon thousands of people. So that is one of the first ones that we always go shoot.
That's really important, because quite often you'll do like a VIP sale in store or maybe online, but you never think about what you could. I think what I've taken from this is actually, if you start to think about how you could land media coverage, it starts to craft the way that you would create the event. So maybe instead of not having it in your store, or if you're an online store, maybe you're an online store, you would go to one of your manufacturers or you go to one of your beautiful stores that stock your product and have it there, because yes, it's a collaboration, but it's also, starts to become a newsworthy story.
Exactly. And so people can go behind the scenes, make sure that you follow them up with interview opportunities. If they'd like to have a chat to you, you might allow them to personalize one of your products, and that can be sort of like an interactive experience. Now, some people will go, oh, but my customers can't personalize. It kind of doesn't matter. Like, everyone was looking at those LG smart fridges for a long time. Very few of them were actually sold, but it was a great platform for people to go, maybe I need to think about LG. And they possibly bought any number of their other fridges. My favorite platform for creating news is trends and statistics. So if you don't have any news, you go and create it through trends and statistics.
Oh, give us some examples, because statistics is easy. Like it's kind of, you go in there, you do a bit of a search, but we talked about trends just recently and different places where you can find the trends, but you were even more upfront with your ideas, like so relevant today that it just blew my mind. And maybe it's because I don't know if it's just because I'm less of that creative brain, or maybe I'm just not in tune with what is happening in the world.
Oh, I just love news so much. Like, I watch it from when I get up. I follow it all during the day. We have 5 televisions in the office.
Gosh, ADHD much?
and always some radio going. Well, it just generates ideas. So trends and statistics. Statistics, I'm going to go through really quickly. We do a lot of work for an online dating site. And they're one of the more traditional platforms to work off. But what we love talking about, how long should it take for someone to say, I love you? When we do surveys of 2,000 plus people across Australia, we find out what states are a little slower in, saying I love you versus some states where they're a little hasty. And that definitely creates news. What are the top 5 sexiest professions according to men and according to women? What are the differences that people are kind of showing? Have they come up before? Are there any surprises? So those kinds of statistics, people love them. They're fun, they're funny, they create a bit of talkability.
Can I just jump in there? Because when I had, it never even occurred to me to use that. And that's why I love having people like you on the show. When I had my stores, we used to run surveys and we had eco baby products, and it would be things like, why don't you use reusable nappies? And there would be answers. And it's like, it never occurred to me. I mean, how clickbaity could you make a headline on, 80% of mums won't touch poo or something along those lines?
Like still gag at their baby's poo.
Yeah.
And that would be great for kids spot or what have you. And you're really reaching your target audience through there. So absolutely, anyone who's got a baby business, there's a great idea for them.
Yeah, you take that.
My favourite trend story that I've ever done was with Art Series Hotel Group. And we were really looking at extending long-term stays within the group, because whilst there's some people that might come for 2 nights or 3 nights, really it's easier for them if they've got people who are staying for a little longer. And it was quite a difficult challenge. But what I did was I looked at, they had new apartments across the road, not very big. So I just made some inquiries. How much is it going to be to rent a studio apartment or a 1-bedroom apartment? Got that price. Guess the electricity amount based on, I was living in an apartment as well, so I sort of knew round about how much the electricity would be, internet fees, all of those kinds of things. Cleaner once a week, factored all of those things in there. And what we found is it's cheaper to live in a hotel than it is to live in the apartment across the road.
And in my favourite hotel chain, to be fair.
That's just gorgeous, and, they've changed hands a few times. So I haven't stayed there for a little while, but, great fun, and just one of those clients that were happy to go out and do things that were interesting and fun and, not too conservative. And then we wanted to look at who is actually living in hotels. And obviously you think, it's, men have been booted out by their wives or something. Absolutely not. Women have moved down from interstate. They just want a little bit of security for a while. People who are renovating, and the category that I love the most, people who just got sick of getting bills every week or every month, and, having to sort of keep on top of that kind of admin. And what I loved was I was in a restaurant and people were actually talking about it in the table around me. And so that's when I kind of knew that not only have we made news, but we'd really got people talking. So that was
that's very similar to the news that's just done the rounds about going on the cruises for 3 years or 5 years. And they worked out it was cheaper to go on a cruise and have
go to a retirement home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's funny, we just bought a townhouse, and to be fair, there's a lot of old people in the area, and we asked people next door who what were they doing, because they'd sold their house, and he said they've gone on a cruise for 2 years while the house is being built. And I was like, oh my gosh, because it was cheaper than them renting an apartment.
Yeah, love that. And all the food's taken care of. There's no argument.
Laundry, doctor,
dishwasher.
Now, if you're in retail and e-commerce, I know the big thing that's happening, well, probably all around the world, but literally as we speak right now is Taylor Swift. Now, I can't say that I'm a Taylor Swift girl. I think they're called Swifties. Not my cup of tea, but that's beside the point. The simple fact is, if you're in retail and e-commerce, there's pretty much something that you could tack on that's Taylor Swift related. Am I right?
Absolutely. And look, that fits into that category of people and pictures, which is our third pillar. And, it kind of depends on what kind of store you've got. But one thing is, it's all about the pictures. That's what you need to remember. So whether or not you're calling your Metro Daily, pick desk, or your local paper, oh my gosh, you've sold out of so much Swifty style merch that, it's gone through the roof. It's really created a trend. And you've got a group of cute girls in their Swifty gear that they've got from your store. And they've got quotes from you as a retailer saying, look, we knew this was going to be big. We didn't think it was going to be this big, but we're really glad to be able to deliver easy options for people in our area. Perfect. Or it could be the lipstick effect. Do you have a store that sells red lipstick? I'm sure that sales of red lipstick have gone through the roof over the past few weeks. And so if you can look at, they're up by 79%, we really put it down to the Taylor effect. And then you've got a cute picture of someone that's covered in like red kisses on their face, or they're lying down and they've got red lipsticks all around them. that creates a really great news package, really strong picture, great quotes from an industry expert that happens to be you. And you just even say to the journo, if I can get a cheeky mention for my store, I'd so appreciate that, which makes sense for them to do in a story like that. So it's definitely worthwhile.
And that's something that never goes away. Like there is always going to be a celebrity doing something.
Absolutely.
And like all I'm thinking is quite often you'll see retail and e-commerce, especially in fashion, saying, you know, Kim Kardashian wore this. This is our version of it, or this is the cheaper version.
Here's the dupe. You know, you can buy this here, but I've got it here for that. Given people are just going in for a concert, it's a great price point. That's something that you also sort of need to be in tune to what's happening in news. There was one stage where people were wanting the most lavish things. So, you know, it would be like hamburgers that cost $200 and they've got
COVID. That was COVID money.
Yeah, exactly. And then now it's all about cost of living. Have you got a dupe? Have you got a shortcut? And I think that kind of fits under tips and hacks. You know, how can you save money? I'm doing dinner boxes for, you know, $30 when other people are doing 40, or I've got these tips on how to save money. All of that is so relevant at the moment. So you need to be attuned to it. Hopefully it swings the other way because the lavish, you know, photos are more fun, but, you know, really be attuned to sort of what's happening in the world outside. Dupes absolutely in at the moment, shortcuts, tips, hacks, you know, you can certainly pitch those and they're sure to get a bit of a run.
And I'm sure at the moment that people are doing this anyway. They're just not thinking of ways to leverage it. And we have to remember, as like anyone who creates content realizes that, especially in like journos these days, is they need so much content in this digital era. They literally need to be flooding out articles. And we know that. We see them in our Facebook feed and we're like, oh, typo, or how is this news?
And it's so mean. It's like these people, you know, there's some people who are working on 5 publications at a time. So, you know, and I think in respect to that, don't give them a hard time. Don't do the whole, you know, how's this news? But also present things in a really organized way. Make sure your images are at least, you know, 300 DPI when the shorter side's 10 centimeters. Make sure that you've got a short, sharp pitch with some background materials. Do you need to include a recommended retail price or what you're selling something for? Do you need to include your website or web address and an actual street address? All the basics, pop it there in one email. It makes their life so much easier.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, I wouldn't even think about that. But actually, if you can reduce any friction for them to get a piece of content out, I assume that sometimes they'll just run with that without even telling you.
Absolutely. So you can't keep track. And look, you can subscribe to media monitoring services, probably a little bit expensive for, you know, if you've just got one store.
Google Alerts.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Google Alerts is helpful. At the end of the day, you know, if it gets out there, you'll find it, or people will come and tell you, hey, I saw you in this. So I think that's, you know, it's just good. And you start that communication and people will start to come to you, go, hey, I'm doing something on pink things. What have you got that's pink? Or, we're doing this. Or we want to talk to some retailers about, you know, how they're finding, you know, the market at the moment.
And even that in and of itself, if we went back to, I don't know if it would fit under statistics or where it would fit, but even that concept of being able to say, this is the trend that we are seeing as retail business owners because of the economy. And it could be something simple as overall cosmetics have been down, but actually red lipstick, which we attribute, like you're making your own news when you say that.
Exactly.
Yeah, Taylor Swift, we can only
really well.
Yeah. So all these things that you're kind of whinging about in Facebook groups, are they news? Because they could well be news.
And you can easily turn it into a positive. Like you might be like, retail's down. Well, okay, what we're finding customers are looking for is good value. You know, they're happy to settle for dupes and what have you. So we've provided it. Great, you're putting yourself out there. Your business is doing well because you're attuned to exactly what customers want. So good profile building for you as well. So yeah, there's light in everything. I think, you know, there's that saying that you miss every shot you didn't take. So if you don't go and pitch yourself or you don't get someone to go and pitch on your behalf, well, you know, people are not necessarily going to just find you. I mean, it happens sometimes, but it's unlikely. So
exactly. If you are hoping that someone is just going to ring, I mean, that's to be fair, that has actually happened to me. A Channel 9 rang me up one day and was like, back when I had my stores, and was like, we need a store to film in. Can we come over right now? It needs to be a baby store. It's eco-friendly. And
yeah.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with putting yourself forward as being available for comment on stuff. So if you do see things up, drop the chief of staff at your favourite TV networks a note. Just say, hey, I'm a retailer. I've been operating for, 10 years in this area. A couple of things that I've noticed. If you need anyone for quotes, I'm always available. So then they can grab you. Don't be difficult. Let them just turn up. Don't worry about your hair or anything. Just get yourself out there.
Love it. Love it. How many have we gone through? So
we've got one more to go through. So we talked a bit about tips and hacks, which is, really all about positioning yourself as the expert. But innovation is the other one. So innovation, it's not just new and innovative products, but innovative services. So different ways of doing things. So for example, and 7-Eleven's a brand I worked on like 50 billion years ago. But, we started to do 7-Eleven Day here in Australia. And then we transferred it to bring your own cup in. And it could be anything that you could bring in. And that actually created some news. People were bringing in helmets, buckets, what have you. It didn't matter, cost the same. So think about different ways that you can do business, different ways that you can charge, different incentive programs that you can offer. And it just really makes a big difference and can be a really great newsworthy platform. But it might be the product in itself, could be innovative, and that's worthwhile talking about as well.
So how does it work then if there's something that's innovative and you resell the brand? So you're not the product manufacturer or the product creator. Yeah. You curate the range, but at the end of the day, you've maybe picked it because it's innovation. So if you're doing that, should you still be out there searching for PR, or should you be relying on your suppliers to do that?
Partly your suppliers should be doing stuff. However, you can position yourself as a little bit of a cool hunter yourself. And you can go out there and you can be like, here's the trends and here's the innovation that we're seeing within the space, and positioning yourself really as the person who's hunted these things down. Doesn't matter if 20 other shops have got all of that product. They didn't go to media about it. You're the one that's in there. So totally, make hay while the sun shines with that. But also tap into things that the distributors might be doing. So ask them if they're doing anything from a PR perspective or what is their plan, and for their social media, and see if you can tap into any of that. Was chatting to some people the other day who, one of the ladies was a florist, and she's she's participating in one of the big flower and garden shows down here. And my advice to her was tap into the PR for the flower and garden show. They will be wanting people who will be like, we need someone at 6:00 tomorrow morning for weather crosses. Are you available? And there'll be so many people who are like, oh, that's so early. Oh, I don't know if I can just make it happen, and put yourself forward as the person that can make it happen. That kind of reminds me, there's also this really weird grey area in PR, and I call it pay for play.
Ooh, advertorials, yep.
Yeah, and it comes up a lot, and the grey gets greyer, and I think it's worthwhile thinking about this and thinking about whether or not it's going to be worthwhile for you, because sometimes you just really want the coverage, and there's different options that you can go to. I think there's Linkbee, where you can have your product in there and a link. So you'll sort of need to see how that fares for you. But then there's things like, weather crosses on TV. And there's 6 crosses and there's a production fee that's kind of involved for some of them, unless it's something that they really, really want to do. What you need to think about is, for the fee for that, is it going to be worthwhile for you? You might find you're getting a heap of wastage. If you've got an online and a retail store that's just located in one place, that kind of coverage spending on that's going to be wastage, and you're definitely much better investing in something that's local.
I was just thinking about one of the things that I have seen people comment on is when we run ads in the network, like the advertising network, that can be anywhere. So for me, that could be Forbes magazine or Inc., like all these Business Insider, all these places pick up on these networks to run their ads because they get paid to run the ads. And it's funny because people have said things like, I saw you on Business Insider, and I'm like, and I go looking because I'm like,
really?
not there,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
not that I knew of. And then I realized that what they actually saw was just an ad down the side of the page, but they
Yeah.
don't realize that in some cases you don't get to choose where those things go.
Yeah.
The ad platform chooses.
Yeah.
But how much cred do you get when someone says, I saw you on the Forbes
Such
website?
and such.
Even if
And it's good for you to be saying that you were on there too and popping it onto your LinkedIn or your other social media platforms. Definitely worthwhile. But yeah, what a lovely surprise for you.
and I think the whole pay to play is, I think if you are, I'm not going to say uneducated, but if you haven't been in the game, in
Yeah.
the marketing game for a while,
Yeah.
you probably underestimate how much of media coverage is actually paid for. And
Yeah.
it may not be an advertorial. It could be those live crosses on TV, or it
Yeah.
could be that the person who is on stage at the event that you're speaking at paid
Yeah.
to be there because they
Yeah.
knew that the audience was filled with their people. And
Exactly.
you'd be surprised how many people, how many well-known people do as much I get paid to speak as I pay to speak to get in front of
Exactly.
these people.
And, you always sort of pick up a few hints along the way as to sort of how that's kind of happened. You go, oh, yeah, right. And I love sort of deciphering that and seeing what's going on. Hey, one question that I do get a lot is, can I do my own PR
Mhm.
or do I need an agency? So I've thought about this a lot because I sort of think about the clients and kind of right for us versus ones where I'm like, let me just give you some general advice and see how you go dipping your toe in the water. And there's lots of times where you can actually do your own PR. And if you've just got one store or you've got one product range or what have you, you should absolutely try to do it yourself because you'll probably find that the cost involved for getting an agency on board and the effort that you need to put in to sort of get that going maybe might not be worthwhile for the number of opportunities that are available for you. If you are producing products and you are producing, new products sort of every couple of months, then that might be worthwhile getting a PR agency on board to sort of handle that for you. But if you're a smaller retailer, jump in and just try and build these relationships yourself. And it works off old school etiquette. And that's just like the weirdest thing, how you approach people. Have the courtesy of reading, what they've written before, what their formats are, and what have you. And just give it a go.
I think you have to go in knowing that there can be no expectations. Like, it would be great if something happens, but you are building relationships. And
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many articles I've submitted on Help a Reporter Out or on
yeah,
Source Bottle here in Australia, and you never
yeah,
hear anything back.
yeah,
But you don't know what's happening in the background. The simple fact is they have your name, they have your email address, they have your
yeah,
website. And I have had people, like you said, come to me later on going, oh, I read about this thing on your website, or
yeah.
I saw that you did a podcast about such and such. Can you give us a quote? So journalists need to have a database of people. They need their little informants to be able to create the
Exactly.
news.
Although, do you know what I'm loving at the moment? This is totally off topic. Did you think we would ever go off topic?
Never, never.
A lot of journalists getting content from Facebook groups.
Oh my gosh.
And very ideas coming
I
through.
think you're just going with like news.com.au. It's so many of they seem to be the groups that I'm in. I don't know
Oh,
if I just
really?
get
Love
targeted with the articles. Maybe it's the business groups and things, but
Yeah,
it's like, supermarket shamed for, the one I just saw, this came up in my feed. And of course they're amazing at clickbaiting.
yeah,
It's like the real gross reason these seats were empty at the Taylor Swift concert.
yeah.
Someone
Well,
vomited and they had to wait for a cleaning crew. Like, how is this news?
I think Taylor hadn't started yet, was really sort of how it happened. But you know what? Go and take note of who the journalist is, because obviously they're looking for those kinds of stories and then reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
Drop them a note and say, hey, I've got this. This is what's happened. But you could also say, look, there's been mention of it in here as well if they want to get, or you can say, I've got case studies.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm loving watching that happen at the moment.
Oh, but
And
it
totally
works so
seeing-
well, doesn't it? To be fair, whoever writes those headlines does an
Yeah,
amazing clickbaiting job because I'm forever clicking on them, which just means I get fed more and more and more. But
exactly.
it does feed into that intrinsic busybody nature of
Yeah.
ours, like the voyeuristic. What's happening? What do I need to know about this?
And that's where the community groups really are. So they're just sort of taking themselves and popping themselves in the middle of community, which I think I love it. And I love seeing it happen. I'm also like pretty careful as to what I'd sort of want to pop in there, but it's just exciting.
But
It's
if
good
they
to
can do it,
see.
you can do it too, right? Like you could say,
Exactly.
I'm in this Facebook of 10,000 business women, and
Yeah.
the biggest complaint that I see is the post office never delivers.
Yeah.
And so I've gone and done this to
I've
make sure my
developed my
parcel.
own service for
Yeah.
delivering or whatever it is, or how I've got around it, or hacks for making sure your parcels get delivered, or
Yeah.
any of that kind of stuff, I think is like really, really fun. I love seeing you. The other thing is if you click on like the journal, like normally for online, say, most of the big online, so you can click on the journal, you can see the other stories that they do. And then sometimes you can see a little bit of a pattern. So, oh, my $1 million Coles deal, took me from this to this. And then there'll be another one that's kind of similar. You go, oh, okay, how can I shape that to be my story? How can I?
And I've done that. I found a small business writer who was writing about the post office and some changes that they were making.
Yeah.
And I literally just sent them a message with my response to that. I was pretty
retailer.
I was pretty upset at the time. And so I put in a few quote-worthy sentences that I thought that they might just steal. But then, again, it may just be one sentence. It might just be, retail strategist Selena Knight says, blah, 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 blah. And you'll see that if you actually start to break it down, you'll see that they often have like 5 or 6 different people that they've put like just one sentence from.
Exactly. And so it's worthwhile being in there, but also positioning yourself as a go-to. Also, there's plenty of, very obvious places where you should be. Like, why would you want to, you sort of go, oh, why would I want to build myself up in small business media or tech media or what have you? Well, it's great for your SEO for a start. It's super helpful for that. It's super helpful for you're going to have customers amongst that space anyway. I love moving. This is one of my passions about PR is moving people from their natural space. So where they might naturally belong, whether or not it's sort of like retail news or what have you, and taking them into early general news. That is my favorite journey for PR. It's something that I'd sort of encourage everyone to look at because, these journos are working so hard to produce what they're doing. But if you go and have a look at it, it just gives you a great indication of where your customers are at, what they're thinking. So definitely worthwhile.
And all of that is, at the end of the day, you're probably going to sell your business. Like, let's be honest, you might not be thinking of it right now. It might be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the track.
Yeah.
There are very few legacy businesses that get handed down. So if you are building these things, even if you're doing one every 6 months, if you're getting out there and you can say, but we've been featured in this place, this place, this place, this place, then all of a sudden the worth of the brand becomes a lot higher because you have this media attention that the next person can go back and leverage.
Exactly. It all falls into the goodwill category for when you're selling your business. So keep that in mind. The other thing is if you're looking on taking on board a new brand, ask them what they do for PR. Ask to see their, we call them coverage books. We have all the links in there. And, for brands that we work on that are selling into like supermarkets or other retailers, we make sure that everything goes in there. Have we had an influencer do some user-generated content? Have we had online articles, print articles, even copies of the videos? If you pop it in there, you'd want to see that just to make sure that everyone's kind of doing their bit for the success of that product in your store.
And then you can then leverage that. Like the whole idea is you take what they've created and then you put your advice on it or your trend or your statistic or your hints and tips or your experience.
Exactly.
Which one did I miss? That was 5, I think.
And there's actual news.
Actual news.
Actual news, which does exist.
And maybe it is actual news, but by taking that and putting your spin on it, you're giving it's a really easy way. And do you know who's done this really? If we think back to like 2010 when blogs were big. Remember that when we used to read blogs?
Yeah.
Bloggers were fantastic at this. They used to be, here's the dupe or here's the outfit that if you can't have this, you can have this or get this Hamptons home on a budget. Like
exactly.
Bloggers did this very, very well.
Best way to do a ponytail, I think, was one blogger's, trip to success. And it's still, I think a lot of people look it up. And
how to fold a fitted sheet.
Oh my god.
Hunting for George. Oh my God. How many awards did they win with their video on how to fold a fitted sheet?
So many. In fact, it was so funny. I was talking to Lucy the other day and I helped them launch their online store when I was, I think, 38 weeks pregnant. And I really tried to say no, but Jo and I had gone to school together and she's hard to say no to. So that's funny, but I still can't fold a fitted sheet. But I still go and look at the content.
I know, but they rode that wave, I reckon, for a good 2 years. They made a video on how to fold a fitted sheet, and for 2 years they used that to explode their business. And everyone, whenever you say how to fold a fitted sheet, if you're in Australia and you're in retail, you will immediately think of them.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's so good.
So it doesn't have to be anything brilliant.
Amazing or something different, practical or quirky. Like if quirky's good.
Yeah. How to put your shorts in line like Marie Kondo does.
Oh, yeah, and like T-shirt folding. I've been addicted to those reels where they're folding up. They're putting pants on hangers in a different way and T-shirts, and then I go to my drawer and it's very depressing.
I'm with you. As I pulled everything out to pack today to head to the UK, I'm just like, I really tried that Marie Kondo thing. And you can see the bottom layer of the things I haven't touched is perfect. And then everything I've worn since is just
like folded on top. I don't know. I'm just hoping that the trend changes, you know. And then
a mess trend.
Drawers. Yeah.
Well, if we're all going to be living minimalistically, we won't have much stuff to put in the cupboard.
Well, actually, we've been working with this gorgeous lady called Tamsin Addings from Miss Lolo, and she's all about maximalism. So everything is bright, colourful, and so I'm thinking I hope that trend extends into my wardrobes, my drawers, my kitchen cupboards. That would be so wonderful.
I am already in that trend. So as she said,
you would love her. You need to meet her. She's just divine.
I will. But again, even something about it's almost creating your own trend, isn't it? It's like picking up what she's doing and saying, this person got media coverage. Here's how you can here's how you can embrace this trend with our products.
Exactly. Absolutely spot on. I think it just makes such a difference, and how you can do it better, cheaper, faster, any of those things. And it doesn't have to be all of those things. You might not have cheaper, but you might have faster. You might have packaged everything up. You want this look, you can actually buy it in a package deal and it costs XYZ.
Yeah, I just went to a tile shop bathroom/tile shop on the weekend, and that's exactly what they've done.
Yeah, right.
Get this entire bathroom for $15,000, and it was the bath, the toilet, the tiles, the vanity, and the mirrors. And I was like,
what tile shop was that?
Beaumont Tiles.
Oh, really? I need to look. The other thing, I'm looking at a bathroom renovation. But Shayna Blaze does really good of those kinds of things. And
I think this was her collection.
Retailer. Yeah.
Yes.
They're spot on. They are so good.
But how easy is that for somebody who isn't design and people, if you, and I'm not, I'm function. I am so much function over form, even though I can pin a good Pinterest board and put things together so they look good, but creating it off the top of my head doesn't work. And so I think people forget that just because you're good at something doesn't mean somebody else is. And in fact, one of the reasons they come to you is because you are good at curating things, whatever things it is. And if you're good at that, you can't overestimate your customers being good at that. And so if you can package things together like a bathroom package.
People will pay for it.
I'll just take that. Thanks. Yep, that looks great.
Actual wardrobes. That's the other thing. I shop at the same spot for my clothes all the time. Largely, we are getting so off track. Largely because everything goes, The ladies know my size. Everything goes. I can just message them. I tell them the kind of stuff they want. They pull everything out. Winter done. Summer done.
There you go. And I guess worst case scenario, not that there's any worst case scenario, but worst case scenario, if you're putting all these things together and you're putting some time and effort into PR, if it doesn't work out, you got a crap ton of social media there that you can use.
You're right. Looking on the bright side, totally. But you know what? If you're looking in the right spots, you'll definitely crack a winner there, So just really, if you just try and identify and go, okay, well, what were the key things I were looking for? Who is it? Who's written it? The emails you can normally find online, or just call the publication, say, can I just have the email formula?
It's usually first name dot last name.
Second name at whatever it is, .com.au.
And you can work that out by just going to the contact, and even if it doesn't have anyone's actual thing, you'll find one person and you're like, this is the format.
Well, no, do you know what? I'm finding heaps, particularly in that retail space, heaps of journos happy to take a pitch via Insta Messenger.
Ooh, well, that's
which is
interesting.
really weird. Like, I feel weird about it, but I'll chat wherever they want to chat. That's
Be where
fine.
they want to be.
Yeah. So, keep that in mind as well. Follow them on Insta, make helpful, supportive comments for what they're posting. And then, you can message them as well. So that's another way of doing it. So all my team in here constantly on social media, you'd be thinking they were just sorting out their own feeds. They're not. Half the time they're messaging stylists, sending some screenshots in, all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Alrighty. Before we wrap up, can you just go back through the 6 different ways that we can create news for our products?
Absolutely. So first one is news or actual news. That can go into issues, but that's another thing. And definitely get in touch if you need someone to handle some issues for you. So news, actual news, events and money can't buy experiences, trends and statistics, which is my favorite. People and pictures. It's all about the pictures. People surrounded by fruit, someone wearing their Taylor Swift outfit, someone with red lipstick everywhere. Create a good picture, and you don't even have to go to a journo. You can go to the pic desk to start off with to see if they like it, and then they'll hook you up with a journo. Innovation, changing the way you sell, changing the product that you sell, those kinds of quirky things. Tips and hacks, largely positioning yourself as the cool hunter or the expert. That's the 6.
That's the 6. And I would just like to finish that. I don't actually watch the news, believe it or not, but I had finished watching a home renovation show this morning as I had my cup of tea at 5:30. And as it finished, the news popped up afterwards, and it was about a girl who Taylor Swift's drummer had given the drumsticks to. And
I watch it all.
Knowing that I was coming on here today, I was like, oh my gosh, if I owned a music store, I would be leveraging the bejesus out of that.
Absolutely. And look, you'd be able to see what brand of drumsticks they are for sure, for a start. And, if they're the ones that Taylor's using, for sure. So those kinds of fun things, those kind of quirky things, tap into them. It's really, be aware of the world around you.
Even the dress that the girl was wearing that got the drumsticks. Now, look, my brain is working.
It's a lucky dress, totally. So all of that absolutely makes sense. So I just hope that some of the listeners start to just have a little look at what's happening in the news, how it's formulated, because it's actually really fun. And I
was going to say, and have fun with it. Like, yes, there's some seriousness, but if you're having a bit of fun with it.
Yeah. What are the pictures? What's the experience? What's the crazy thing that you can offer? Jump in and do it. Not everyone's got money for an ambassador. I totally get that. But there's still some fun things that you can do with people.
I love it. I love it. Love it. If people are like, I have a great product, I have a great store, I need this lady in my business, where can they find you, gorgeous Chris Mannix?
Oh, you're gorgeous. So the business is called Soda Communications. We're online. We're on Instagram. I think, there's a number direct into the office to give us a call. So definitely get in touch. I'll be the first one to tell you if, you can handle it yourself. And I'll also be the first person to tell you if we've got some great ideas and can jump in and manage that for you. So would love to hear from anyone, or even if they just want to email me and just bounce around an idea, it's no trouble.
Maybe you have some news that you can give to Chris, who can pass it on to Jono.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome
conversation.
Thank you so much for helping everyone out today.
No, thanks so much for having me on. I've loved it.
So that's a wrap. I'd love to hear what insight you've gotten from this episode and how you're going to put it into action. If you're a social kind of person, follow me at @TheSelena and make sure to leave a comment and let me know. And if this episode made you think a little bit differently, or gave you some inspiration, or perhaps gave you the kick that you needed to take action, then please take a couple of minutes to leave me a review on your platform of choice. Because the more reviews the show gets, the more independent retail and e-commerce stores just like yours that we can help to scale. And when that happens, it's a win for you, a win for your community, and a win for your customers. I'll see you on the next episode.